Our next question, and we'll start with Ms. Louder. Can you see a time when Hingham adopts a split tax rate?
We got that question. That was part of the Hingham Journal question. Never is...
verification to see if you're
Oh, so I wrote my own answer, so. Never is a very long time. I would fight against it for an awful long time. And the reason is we have so many wonderful mom and pop and small boutiques in this town. A tremendous burden would fall upon them. Because when we think of a split tax rate, we're thinking of the hospital buildings, we're thinking of charter, we're thinking of the big industries. And that's not what this town is made of. So never's a long time, but I would fight it for a long time.
Presently, the Board of Selectmen sits with the Board of Assessors. It'd be in order to look at this idea of the split tax. Up until this point, we feel that it's not something that we would encourage because we feel that it's important to encourage a commercial component of the town that doesn't create a lot of need for services. And therefore, at this point in time, I would be against it because it wouldn't gain anything to the residential component.
Mr. Manning.
We're Hingham to adopt the disastrous approach to purchasing the Aquarian Water Company. I certainly would approve of a split tax rate for those that have their well water and those that are serviced by Aquarian.
Thank you. You're welcome. We have actually, we'll have a chance for one more question. As I said, we've got several more. And this actually is a related question, and we'll start with Mr. Riley. And what is your position regarding the Lincoln Maritime Club? Are you in favor of increasing the rate they pay to the town?
Well, first of all, I just want to make it clear that I am in favor of having a rowing and sailing program on the harbor. However, since I've sat on the Board of Selectmen, I do believe that the Barnes Wharf is a town asset, and it belongs to all the people of the town of Hingham. And I think that that it's unfair for the number of people to use it to ask the rest of the citizens of the town that don't use it to subsidize the use of it. So therefore, I would be in favor of a small rent, and to see how that works within the program of the Lincoln Sailing Club, and then go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Manning.
Lincoln Maritime is considered a charitable corporation or a non-profit corporation. This does not mean that it does not make money. And in order to determine the amount it contributes to the town, their books should be examined, and it should be determined the amount of money the officials receive. Now, non-profit means there are no stockholders. But this does not mean that it is a charitable corporation. As a prosecutor, I successfully convicted 5 non-profit corporations where their officials were making just unconscionable salaries, but since there were no stockholders, they weren't held accountable. Again, a close examination of the books must be made before any decision happens.
Thank you.
It's very hard to follow, Bernie. It really is. I am a fan of Lincoln Maritime. Tally and I were on the board many, many years ago. I'm afraid to tell anybody how many. It was started by Tom Curtis, and it was Lincoln Trust, which is where it got its name. It is a nonprofit, and it is to serve all of the kids in town and anybody that wants to learn rowing and sailing. So I believe I could sit down with the Lincoln Maritime folks and work out something that would be agreeable to both. It's a tremendous asset. The building was built with private money. It's taken care of by private money. Not a dime of town money goes there. You could say maybe there's lost revenue, but I think you would lose an absolute treasure that's part of Hingham. And I do think we could come to some amicable agreement on some form of rent.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to your closing statements. I will remind you again, this is 1 minute. And Ms. Lauder, you have won the lottery to begin.
Why do I win all these and I can't win the money lottery? All right. This has been very interesting. I think the questions have been great, and I thank the link of women voters and everyone here. Let me recap why I'm running for selectman and why you all should support me. I have the experience both from the private sector and from the advisory committee, from capital and other committees and all my volunteer work, to know how Hingham works and the financial side of keeping it working. I've got the education credentials and 20 years of teaching under my belt. I also would be a representative of South Hingham. That's the part of town that nobody knows about. I have no IOUs or potential conflicts, real or perceived, that I bring as baggage, and would want to serve the entire town. I strongly believe there should be 3 selectmen fully engaged in all deliberations of the town. And finally, an email was sent out by a member of the Board of Selectmen supporting the incumbent. Not only is that disappointing and mean-spirited, it reinforces the fact that a self-perpetuating, closed Board of Selectmen isn't and can't be healthy for Hingham. It's time for new blood and fresh thinking and the same, and not the same old, same old. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Riley.
Yes, I would just like to thank the League of Women Voters once again for putting this venue on. I want to just point out that I've served the town for 27 years in the capacity as an elected official of the town, not appointed. And the well-being of this town is like the well-being of myself. So we need to continue to work collaboratively towards to reduce cost and increase revenue. There's several projects underway which we need to complete as soon as possible. I seek another term in order to see these projects through into reality, and I seek your support and your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, to wrap up this.
When the legislature in 2009 proposed a new local options meal tax to provide a measure of relief to the municipalities for failing budget shortfalls by permitting the cities and towns to impose a 0.75% tax on meals served in the community, our town leaders regard this minuscule crumb from the legislator's table as manna from heaven and rejoiced at the prospect. They should have rejected the proposed tax and demanded the entire 6% meals tax collected in the communities. That should stay in the communities. And had they had the foresight, once this request was made, then the sales tax should have been attacked in order to provide